to race a car, well, use the word race, but to drive a car in Antarctica? Why? Because it was there?
Good question. No, not because it was there. It's because we set out to race that car in every continent, and Antarctica is one of those continents. So if you're going to do what you set out to do, then you got to tick the box for Antarctica.
Where did that start, though, that you wanted to get it on every continent?
It really came out of a desire to use the car for change in the world. That's why. I realized that because I was odd in the racing world, being a woman who started in her mid-50s, having success in a very notorious race, the La Carrera Panamericana, going back year after year and being on the podium with my team, all those things, woman, age, crazy race, right? People say, who are you and what are you doing, right? And realize that could be taken and the car could literally be used as a vehicle to affect change in this world. And that's how Project 356 started, which is racing the car in every continent to raise awareness and raise money for kids that are being trafficked. So that was the roots of all of that.
The amount of work that went into this with the people, the staff, the support you had behind you. I mean, it's not like you just took a Porsche 356 and you dropped it on the snow in Antarctica. This car was an amazing feat of technology, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish Kieran Bradley, who was our chief engineer and all this, he's the chief for Lotus chassis engineer. And he has the world record with my navigator of going to the South Pole, fastest land speed record of doing that. He has some other records in the Guinness Book of World Records in Mongolia and different things. So he's brilliant. He's passionate. He cared about why we were doing what we were doing. And he's the master behind the development of this car for the ice.
Every athlete I've ever known, but specifically those who drive race cars for a living, when they're prepared to step out and compete, and I've been told this by some of the best, you have a checklist. There's this, there's this, there's this. You're constantly running through that checklist.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I've had certain drivers tell me that every now and then and one driver told me there's a red check. And I said, what's the red check? He said, that's what I worry about. There's always something there that I'm concerned is going to happen and I have no control over. What was your red check on this list, on this event?
Well, that's just to give you a little background on the whole car, because we weren't able to test it. Because of COVID and the problems with travel, etc., we weren't able to put that car in a quasi-similar environment to actually test it. The testing for that car was in the backyard of Kieran's backyard in the UK when he had some snow.
So you basically were out there in Antarctica. You're out there in one of the most violent, unpredictable scenes and ecological areas of the world, and you had no idea what you were going to face with that car.
No, we didn't know. When we theoretically knew that it was going to be successful, but we had no practical experience with that.
So then you're into it, and you're out there on the snow and the ice. Was there, and you're so good at what you do, you have devoted yourself to this, but was there a moment or any moment in there where something happened, something came into your mind, something you thought of, and you didn't get scared? I don't say scared to athletes. That doesn't happen. But that concern, something that went on in your mind.
We were having a repeated failing in a bolt. It's amazing, the integrity of the metal, right? That one would think, how did that happen? But we kept having a bolt shear off. That was the connection to the car for the skis. And thankfully, we had a couple of extra parts that we could take those bolts out of, but it's like, are we going to have enough bolts? But the thing that really got my attention was it was a struggle every day to get that miles, and it was a mileage goal. We had to get 356 miles. That's what we set out to do, right? So anytime the car was running, we got to go. We got to go. We got to get these miles in. We only have so many days on the ice. we have a slot on a plane to get out of here on a certain day, and we have got to get these miles done. So we were out, and we knew the conditions were going to be bad, and they were very bad. I'm sure some of you have been in whiteouts when you're skiing or something, but this was a whiteout because you consider where you are. You don't know what's sky. You don't know what's land. You don't know if you're side. You're totally off. You don't know what's up, what's down, and you know that you're going through areas where there's crevasses, and you can't see anything in front of you. And
You
Jason,
had no radar. I want to make people really aware of this. It's not like you had radar, you had somebody out in front of you. You're also
no,
in a shifting and changing environment where because of climate change, because of where it is, because of anything, you could have hit a crevasse at any time. It could have just opened up in front of you, and it's not like you can see and get out of the way.
no. And
Wow.
actually, the support vehicle was struggling more than we were. We actually performed a lot better than our support vehicle when we were on snow or packed ice, etc. And so they were somewhere. We didn't know where they were. And our comms didn't work. Our comms were horrible. And unless you could actually be close and see each other at a close distance, the comms didn't work. So we didn't know where they were. We were out in front. We were climbing into the mountains, into these glacier areas. And Jason is saying, well, this is the GPS coordinate. I know there's a flag out there, X amount of kilometers in front of us that we're heading toward. But you don't know, because sometimes you can only deviate maybe 10 meters left or right of a designated path. Well, we're looking at a GPS point that's way out in front of us, maybe 15 kilometers in front of us, or maybe farther. And I don't know, am I deviating? Am I going too far left or right? Are
You
we
were
okay?
technically threading a needle.
Exactly. And I just said, and then we both got, and we both are risk takers. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. We have high tolerance for all that stuff. But at some point, we both looked over and said, now we're being just outright stupid. Like, this is not what we should be doing. So we stopped. And decided to head back down, hoping that the sky would clear a little bit. And it didn't, but the visibility did get a little bit better.
You mentioned earlier that the Antarctica expedition, I like to call it that, it sounds good as an expedition, was to raise money in the fight against child trafficking, which is one of those stories that people, for some reason, do not want to discuss out loud. But I want to just give people a couple of very simple things here. 27% of the trafficked victims around the world are children. It is 4 times more likely that these children will be used for labor than used for sex. And 66%, 2/3 of those trafficked around the world, are young girls.
Mm-hmm.
And they are caught by people who use the ruse of job recruitment and marriage dowries more often than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding to hear
Mm-hmm.
those numbers. Renee, this is 2022 as we do this interview.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't gone away. It's worse now than it ever was before, and we need to face this out loud, yes?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Something people don't want to talk about. Yeah.
Why? Why? Knowing that it's the numbers I put out there are, people can check it all they want. Face it. Why don't people want to face this, Renee?
It's ugly. People don't want to look at things that are ugly. People don't like bad news, right? They want good news. And if they are going to listen to bad news, it's not going to be something that's this bad. And it makes people uncomfortable. Um, it's very disturbing. The first time I learned about this, it wrenches your gut, makes you feel sick. Inside, like in your soul, it's like this awful. It's this awful feeling you have, and who wants to? It's like looking at a really bad car accident, and I mean, I know people rubberneck and all, but they don't really get out in their cars and go stare at that stuff. And that's what you're doing. You're looking at a horrible, horrific situation and problem. And when you think about children, children are the people in our society we're supposed to be giving the most protection for and care and nurture, right? Whether you're a parent or you're not, everybody cares, usually about children, and this is happening to children. So yes, the majority of what happens to kids is labor trafficking, but I know for a fact there are millions of children. Is that 2 million? Is that 4 million? What number is that? 5 million, 6 million? What number does it need to be for people
Mm.
to pay attention? That are being sex trafficked.